Hi and a warm welcome to the video. Today we're flying with Virgin Atlantic in their Airbus A350-1000 from Atlanta over to London Heathrow, and today we're also trying their upper class suite. First time for me, so excited to have you along for the journey. We weren't supposed to be flying with Virgin Atlantic, but I can explain a little bit more about how this came about during the video. Anyways, if that sounds good, do stay tuned. Our journey actually began at a deserted Atlanta airport at about 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd missed our flight connection and were due to fly back over to Heathrow with Delta, but they had shifted us onto a Virgin Atlantic flight that left the next day, and to our surprise, they'd also booked us into upper class. Thanks very much to the Hilton, who, despite everyone else being full, managed to find my family and I a room for us to stay for the night. Here we are then the next day, or rather later that same day, and we're going to be flying on this, a 6-year-old A350-1000. Now oddly, even though it was Delta that moved us, Delta wouldn't check us in, so we had to do a quick online check-in. We didn't actually have any bags with us, which turned out to be really helpful, as it meant we could go straight through security and head over to the lounge. Virgin doesn't have its own lounge in the international terminal at Atlanta, so it was over to a Delta Sky Club we went, and it wasn't bad at all. There was plenty of space, we were able to sit down, and there was a decent selection of food and drinks. Equally, absolutely brilliant views of the apron. Inside the lounge there's actually a doorway that leads to an outdoor viewing deck. I really liked it out here. Plenty of comfy seating and of course excellent views of the aircraft departing and parking up at the international terminal. It was about 35 degrees though, so I actually didn't stay out here for too long and soon escaped back into the very good air conditioning of the lounge. So back to our Airbus A350-1000 with Virgin, with 44 upper class seats in the cabin. I was seated today in seat 5K on the right hand side. All this plane watching had made me very hungry, and thankfully the Delta lounge was actually very well stocked. There was lots of snack food, some really good mains, and you could even here make your own burger. I opted for a selection, and actually the quality was really good indeed. The international terminal here at Atlanta is a really nice open space. There's lots of shops and concessionary stalls, so plenty to do if you don't happen to have access to a lounge. It also didn't seem very busy, at least that is until we got to the gate, where to be honest it was a little bit chaotic. There was 2 flights departing from this end of the terminal, both at the same time, so lots of confused people stood in the wrong queues. Here's a picture of our jet. It's not the best picture, but the best I could get, as it was parked right at the end of the pier. Here we are boarding, and get ready to put your sunglasses on, as it's very pink indeed. Boarding was also a little bit chaotic, as lots of people didn't seem to know where they were supposed to be. But anyways, here's the cabin, and very impressive it looks too. First impressions then are very good. A slick, very well lit, if you like pink, and smart modern looking cabin. Initially, I thought the cabin seemed very spacious, had 2 windows, and seemed to have lots of space to stow things away during the flight, alongside power and lots of options for your seat. It's also wonderful to have 2 windows all to yourself so that you get views like this. Back to the suite then, and aside from bedding which was provided, you also get access to your own controls for temperature. You get 2 windows as I've said before, and you get these little shelves. Now these turned out to be pretty useless, particularly when we were in flight. Any bit of turbulence and of course anything you'd stowed there would fall off. Here's the tray table, and a very substantial one it was too, but with one massive flaw, and that is that once it was out, you couldn't get in or out of your suite. That's very different to the suite that BA use, because you can in fact still have stuff on the tray, but get in and out of the seat without having to take everything off the tray. You're also provided with some reasonably decent headphones. They weren't the most comfortable, if I'm honest, but the sound quality was okay. Soon we were preparing for the off, and we started off with the safety video, which I really appreciated, having a cartoon version of the illustrious Boeing 747 within it. We pushed back a little late, not too late, but look at those moody skies, so I was half expecting it to be a little bit of a bumpy departure. By now I'd finished my sparkling white wine and I'd had my order taken from the menu for our meal later on. I'd say the crew were friendly, efficient, but probably a little bit sterile. I think that's mainly because it's a big cabin, 44 seats, and they seem really busy with lots to do. So just something I wasn't expecting. I thought there might be a little bit more personality given this was Virgin. Now, despite not leaving particularly late off the stand, I'm guessing the pilot still chose to make up a little bit of time, and you can see here we decided to enter the runway a little way down its length for our takeoff roll. I'll go quiet as you listen to these amazing engines get us into the air. Sound absolutely never gets old. Now, despite those really scary looking rain clouds, the takeoff was really lovely and smooth, and soon the cabin crew would start to get out of their seats and get the service underway. Soon it would be time for service to begin, so as ever with one hand I failed miserably to get the tray table out of its compartment. Note to self. Anyways, here's the menu that I selected from, and also this is the choice that we got for breakfast the next day. We'd already been given a bottle of water, which was really nice, and the crew were really quick to do an initial drinks order prior to our meal. I went for a Bloody Mary and also got some crisps. This also gave me a chance to have a quick look at the amenity kit. It's not the most premium I've ever seen. It's ultimately made of recycled materials, which is fair enough. And here's what was inside. I didn't understand what most of it did, but always happy to see eye masks and toothpaste. Soon I was delivered a wine, and of course also delivered these iconic salt and pepper shakers, which you are encouraged to take with you. My starter was pimento cheese, not my favourite if I'm honest. I then had some halibut, which was absolutely excellent. A really, really lovely plate of food. Don't believe me? Here's the proof. Just look at this face. Yummy. I was never short of a glass of wine either, so the service through the meal was really, really good. Cheers. I finished things off with this lovely cheese board. The cheese was really lovely. I wasn't a massive fan though of the really, really wafer thin crackers. I did have a nice glass of port to go with it though. Dinner and a movie, what else do you need? There was lots of choice of movies and TV programs and music on the very intuitive IFE system on board. I have to say, I think you'd struggle to be bored on a flight. There was simply something for everyone. It was a pretty good selection, and I'd already picked a number of movies to watch through the flight. As we started to lose the light, it kind of implies it might be bedtime. I wasn't quite ready to sleep yet though. I wanted to check out this piece of the plane that I've not shown on the video yet. That's the onboard bar. Now there was a snack area, which was fairly limited if I'm really honest, but I really liked the fact that you had a seating area right behind the business cabin where you could sit and meet up with other passengers or friends and family. My son, wife and I were actually separated and all in different parts of the cabin, so it was really nice just to sit and catch up before we all went off to bed. I also liked it that while we were sat here, one of the crew came over to offer my wife and I a drink. Nice touch. This was a really nice place just to sit and chill, and actually there was even seat belts if you wanted to stay there during turbulence. Then it was back to the seat to try and get some sleep, and this is the major problem with this suite. I actually could not find a way to lay flat. The foot cubby is also really small, so if you're a side sleeper, really not going to work for you, I'm afraid. I did get a couple of hours of sleep and was awoken to this beautiful view. Now, having not eaten too much the night before, really just the main, I didn't get on too well with the starter or the crackers, so I was quite hungry, and it was really nice to hear the clinking of cutlery and plates. That meant that breakfast was on its way. Now, you could have chosen breakfast the night before. I actually didn't do that, not sure why, but went for the full English, which was pretty good, although I'm really not sure what on earth they did to the beans. We started to make our descent, and I tried to get in a few more minutes of film watching before we got off the jet. So let's review Virgin Atlantic upper class on their Airbus A350-1000. And let's also remember that Virgin have got quite a few different versions of a business class seat in their current fleet. For example, if you're flying their Boeing 787, it's a completely different seat to the one that I flew in. And again, if you fly in their A330neos, that again is a different business class seat, and I'm told it's very good. Main problem with this particular aircraft is I found the seat to be a lovely comfortable space as a seat, but not great as a lie flat bed. I also thought it felt very enclosed and really odd that the shelving units actually get in the way of the window. I'm not quite sure I understand that. The service on board was efficient, but it was certainly more sterile than I was expecting. There wasn't the personality and fun that I thought Virgin had become famous for. The food on board was okay. Again, it felt very pub foody. It didn't feel very high end, but what I did have, the halibut in particular, was super tasty. The arrival experience was pretty good, and ultimately the flight was on time. Had I had to pay for this flight though, I think I'd have been probably a little bit disappointed. And having flown with British Airways over to New York about 2 weeks before this, and I'd flown in their new club suites. There's a link above now if you want to have a look at that review. I have to say BA was just on every level was a better overall experience. The food, the service, the seat, and their overall ground experience in this occasion did beat Virgin Atlantic. Now, I don't know if it would be different if I'd have flown in the other direction. I've never been in the clubhouse at Terminal 3 at Heathrow, and I know that's reputed to be one of the best lounges out there. So overall, it was a great experience. I'm always really happy to be able to fly at the front of the aircraft. A lot of people don't get that option, but on this occasion I felt that Virgin Atlantic was just okay, and probably I'm using my comparison when flying with British Airways as my main reason for that. Would I fly Virgin Atlantic again? Absolutely. I'd love to try their Airbus A330neo. I am told the seating on board, for one, is a far better option than you'll see on the Airbus A350-1000s. And overall, I think the fun and the kind of personality were just lacking generally. Whereas with BA, the person who looked after us in their business cabin was just excellent in every single way. a lovely smooth touchdown back at Heathrow has concluded our flight with Virgin Atlantic in their Airbus A350-1000 in upper class. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to my subscribers. I really appreciate your support. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and you'll get to see more of my adventures in the near future. Thanks again for watching, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.